Good morning. Welcome to the Friday edition of the NBA Betting Show. With me, as always, we've got Mike Lockey. We've got Matt Meiselman. I'm Mike G. We're going to jump straight to today. There's an immediate bet that we're recommending, and there's lots of stuff of potential value. Matt, what are you looking at in the Dallas-Miami game?
Yeah, so we're gonna reference yesterday, but really only to cover the back-to-backs that are going into today because we didn't have any bets yesterday. We almost had a couple, but none of it really amounted to much. So we'll go right to today. And yeah, Dallas Miami is the one that I tweeted about that I thought was going to be pretty actionable right away because we got an injury report from the Mavericks yesterday where Christian Wood was downgraded and Tim Hardaway Jr. was upgraded. And Christian Wood, as we've talked about, is roughly even with Dwight Powell and JaVale McGee and Davis Bertans and like the combination of those guys filling the minutes. Wood does not have a good player rating. He's pretty good for counting stats, but I'm going to cut this part of the analysis short because the line is now flipping from +1 to -1. So plus ones are the bet because they're going to be gone soon. As you can see from the unabated odds screen, like this timing is pretty significant. FanDuel still has a +1. Bet River still has a +1. WinBet just went to -1. PointsBet went to -1. Caesars went to -1. So the Mavericks are about to be favored everywhere.
Got it. And just to call out, if you
Yep.
see when you're going to bet at whatever site you're going to, if you see +100 on the money line, that's the better
Yeah.
bet than the minus odds on the +1, if that's available.
Yeah, plus 100 on the money line is higher EV generally than +1 on the spread. But if it's minus 105 on the money line, that roughly is equal with +1 on the spread.
Got it.
So I'm checking. Yeah, Caesars has the +1 still. They just bounced it back. Maybe I read that wrong. But yeah, it looks like the Win and FanDuel. There's a lot of movement happening here. I'm not going to narrate the entire thing, but +1 or +100 now is good. We have it to go back over here. Dallas minus 1.8, so it's not a huge edge. I think this is like a 3/4 unit bet because we have almost a 3-point edge, but around the zeros, I think the points are slightly less valuable. Plus 100 though
I think
is a
that's
bit
fair.
plus 100 is a bit better of a line, so I think a full unit at that number maybe is okay. I
Got
think
it.
I think you go either way. Like one whole unit, maybe a little bit less than a unit. It's a good bet though.
Okay.
And yeah, I think the market may settle at Pick'em, but I think the +1s are going to be gone pretty soon.
Got it.
So
All right.
so Wood is out, Hardaway is in, and Hardaway has a player rating of about 2, and the guys playing behind Hardaway are also a lot worse than the guys playing behind Christian Wood. That's the other part of it. So Dorian Finney-Smith and Josh Green are back, and they're taking minutes from like Frank Ntilikina and Jaden Hardy, and I think Reggie Bullock maybe a little bit. He was probably playing more than he should have been, like 40 minutes instead of 32 minutes. But Hardy is now going to be out of the rotation because Hardaway is back. I know those names are similar, but Jaden Hardy has a negative 3.9 player rating, and now Dallas has enough healthy bodies to get him out of the rotation entirely. And
That's
he's a
gonna
young
help for
player
sure.
they're trying to give minutes to because guys are hurt. They're not going to play him when they're trying to win. So Hardaway is a big deal. Christian Wood doesn't affect any of that because the front court players have a different rotation. So Tim
Got
Hardaway
it.
Jr. being back is really the reason we have value here, and I think the market is just undervaluing him.
Got it. All right. Let's move to another game. You want to just go from the top of the sheet, or is there a different game you want to talk about first?
We actually potentially have a lot of value on New Orleans because of Franz Wagner. I didn't realize he's questionable. But let's not start there. Let's start with Golden State Cleveland.
Okay.
Because yeah, I think we highlighted this pretty well yesterday when we talked about the potential for Warriors rest game with a back-to-back.
Right.
And so to remind people, when we're trying to figure out if a team is going to rest their players on the second night of a back-to-back, the number one thing we care about is the minutes played by the players in the first leg.
Yep.
And the Warriors, I'm going to double check it. I mean, the game went to overtime. So that is the perfect thing for players playing more than their normal minutes, or at least their normal minutes.
3 minutes for Curry.
Yeah, if they had won, I'd feel that much stronger about it. The
Yeah.
fact that they lost that game, and that's a really bad loss. they had that game set in the fourth quarter, and then they just got sloppy, allowed to get into overtime, and then lost.
So not great for Warriors division bets. We're going to come back maybe at the end of the show to like Phoenix division bets because I do think there's going to be some value there. But we already have Klay Thompson projected out. I think he was going to sit today no matter what. Steve Kerr has not confirmed that yet, but he's already projected out. I think like he still is not playing back-to-backs, and especially after an overtime game, like Curry played 40.
Clay's not playing.
Klay played 36. That is a lot for Klay.
It's a lot for Klay.
I think that might be a season high for him.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay, so yeah, so I think we can just assume that he's out, and the projections already have him out. Curry played 43, as you said. Draymond 37. Wiggins 40. And Looney is now coming off the bench. Looney doesn't get rest games now. I think he's in. Poole is the guy who plays when other players rest. Like, Poole will just shoot every time now. But I think Curry is almost definitely out. I think Draymond is very likely out. I think Wiggins is like 50-50.
So you're even with them losing last night, you still feel they're playing the long game and not worried about having a bounce back win?
Yeah, I mean, they just had a back-to-back like not that long ago. They've played a lot recently. So there was a back-to-back for the Warriors that went, just to make sure I have this right, Sunday, Monday at Chicago into Washington. And then they did get 2 days off, but then they played another back-to-back. This is their second back-to-back in 6 days. And they did play the first one, like they played in Washington after playing in Chicago, but the Chicago game was a blowout where they lost, which is the number one game script for guys playing the next night because the minutes were lower and they didn't win. And in that game, Curry only played 34 minutes. This game, he played 43. It's a pretty big difference. And the fatigue, like there's a progressive buildup of fatigue having just played one of these. So it's a game the Warriors don't need to win for any reason. Like it's a non-conference opponent. There's no like extra motivation because it's a team they just played in the finals or something. Like the Celtics game, national TV, I think they did care a little bit extra about it. This game in Cleveland, like it's just whatever. I know the Cavs are good, but I don't think there's any special reason to care. So ideally, I think you sort of hinted at this. Ideally, they would have won the game in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the best possible outcome to get a rest game today. I still think losing in overtime is better for rest than winning in regulation.
I agree.
Yeah.
The minutes are more relevant than the win or the loss, but both do matter.
43 and 37 minutes is a lot of minutes. So no matter what happened with the game, that's a lot of minutes. So, all right. I guess the other thing to keep an eye on is we won't get into the details, but Jordan Poole props, if they're plus EV now on overs, then there's probably a little extra upside in the event that other guys sit. Because like you said,
I would take them even if they're not, honestly. Like if there were Jordan Poole props at all, I'm just betting them because they're not going to be priced properly until all those guys are rolled out. I think the likelihood of Curry sitting is high enough that any relatively normal Jordan Poole number is going to be worth betting. So on Stochastic right now, Poole is projected 22 points and 4 assists, or like 22 points, 3.7 assists. If the numbers are anywhere around that area, I think you bet the over. Because without Curry, it's going to be like 26 and 7 for him.
Right.
Underdog Pick'em has nothing for this game yet, and they have most of the games.
That was the first place I checked. I'm not seeing it, and not seeing it at Bovada either. But anyway, something to keep an eye on. All right. Anything else on this game?
Yeah, we still have a lot more, I think, because
the more you scroll right, the more guys we see.
Well, we haven't mentioned Donovan Mitchell yet either. So okay. So to give like the full analysis of this game, there were lines at 4.5 and 5.5, and even 6.5 throughout the night last night. I did put out on Twitter that I thought it was worth betting them at the time. 7.5. It's starting to get to the point where like, even if the Warriors rest all their guys, if Donovan Mitchell is also out, our projected line is only about 10 or so. So Curry, Draymond, and Wiggins, there is some compounding here. It's going to be a little hard to estimate all this, but I think it's about 10 points or so, because then we're getting into garbage time, and then I have to give manual adjustment back the other way. Like if all of them are out, we're talking about a blowout. So I think the fair line, if everyone breaks towards Cleveland, Mitchell in and all the Warriors are out, or these three Warriors plus Clay, because we already are assuming he's out, that gets us to about a 13 or 13 and a half, 14, something like that. But then if Mitchell is out, it's only around 10 or 10 and a half. So at minus 7.5, like, if you don't have Mitchell, it is a good bet, but it's not so much of a good bet that you would get in before knowing anything. So I think at the 7.5, I want to wait for the first indicator that helps Cleveland at this number. That means either Mitchell has a positive update, like at shoot around, upgraded to probable, available, anything like that. Positive indicator for Mitchell, I would start to get some in. Or we get the Warriors ruled out. Obviously, then, too, minus 7.5 is going to be great. And we don't need Mitchell to play for it to be plus EV if all these guys are out.
So it's very likely we're going to get this news at different times. It's very likely. I'm expecting the Warriors news to go in favor of the Cavs. And what did you say your opinion on Mitchell's status is?
I didn't yet, so I'm not sure, but I do think Mitchell will be first.
Okay.
I think the Warriors news is going to come between 1:30 and 2:30 Eastern. And I think the Cavs probably will have shoot around in the next 2 hours before that.
Would it make sense if we do get a negative Mitchell upgrade that the line's going to move and possibly get back into a place where it'll be more profitable to start firing multiple units at the Warriors news if it falls the way you think?
It's a good question. I think
maybe 5.5 or 6.
Are you asking, should we react and bet the Warriors, or just what do I think it's going to move to?
No. I'm not interested in any Warriors unless everything breaks the Warriors' way, like everybody plays and Mitchell's out or something. But other than that,
I think the market has Mitchell about 50-50. So a downgrade to out probably does cause the line to drop by at least a point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if it gets to 6.5, then I think if we get the Warriors news and it moves to 10, then we might have a full unit then instead of a partial.
Yeah. I think if Mitchell has been ruled out first and the line is dropped, I mean, no matter what, if Curry gets ruled out, bet Cleveland. Like,
sure.
Unless the spread is already like 8 or 9 or 10,
even I'm just thinking of how large I want to go. More.
Right.
It's
so,
like,
I think the line will move enough that you can worry about hedging after. I do. I think the market is pricing in Mitchell is 50-50, Clay is out, and Curry, Draymond, and Wiggins as probable-ish. Like, the market is pricing in some chance that these guys are out. Like, the line opened Cleveland roughly -5 and is already 7.5. That did not come with a Mitchell upgrade. What that came with was the game last night went to overtime, and people like me are betting it. That's what I think is happening here. So I think the market has like a 20% chance of the Warriors all sitting baked in, when in reality it's like a 90% chance.
I think I agree.
So it's still going to move quite a bit. Like, I think the bet, if they all get ruled out, even at 7.5, is to just get a lot down, and then you're going to be able to get some arberage. We just got an update, by the way. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic are at shoot around. I think we're gonna have Hawks bets, assuming they're in.
Betting Hawks now?
Yeah. We have this on screen. 3.3-point edge on Atlanta. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I don't know if there are 2.5s left still, are there? Let me see. And I think the over is going to look reasonably good. Bet Rivers has a 2.5. Yeah, I'm going to assume these guys are in. So this total, we'll come back to the Warriors game. The Hawks-Knicks total opened at 232. It's already down to 228.
And then we got a positive update on the two best offensive players for the Hawks.
Kevin C. just tweeted from shoot-around that Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic are there. It's just a picture, but they are on the court. It's really hard. I mean, if anyone wants to go on Kevin Schuenhard's Twitter account,
I can confirm see Trae in the picture.
Yeah. This is a really big game for the Hawks. Like, the Knicks are right there with them in the playoff race. And Trae Young did say after last game he was fine. Like, he said he's going to be fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to play the next game. But it is at least a positive indication. So, yeah, I know we're jumping around.
Are you betting the over 228 now?
I'm doing it more because I already bet under 232 last night, but I do think it's going to end up north of 230 if those guys are in. I do. So
I took a third of a unit. Mike.
yeah, I think a small bet on the over looks good. Yeah, I'm not going crazy with that, but I do think a small bet on the over looks good.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about, for anybody watching the show who maybe doesn't
Right.
have bets in yet.
For someone who is not hedging, if those guys are in, it's good. But this is my hesitation is just I don't know that they're in. Like they are at shoot around. It seems very likely that they're going to be in.
Yeah, I feel like we as a team we put a lot of stock into shoot around on this show.
Yeah,
and I think that if we're going to be consistent with ourselves, I think now they're more like 80% to play. I think that's fair.
I think it might have already been well above 50, and now we're above 90%. So okay. I guess my hesitation is I don't want anyone to bet this and get burned the other way if they're not attentive enough to be able to follow the next update. You know what I mean?
I want to respond to that real quick. Yeah. Look, anybody that's listening to this show, we're just a couple guys trying our best. And obviously, when information changes, then obviously everything that we're talking about also changes. Yeah. I don't know that you need to necessarily fear that when you're sharing your information.
Well, I guess I'll just lay out how I'm handling this. I forget the fact that I already bet a little bit on the Knicks and the under last night when we first got this update. It has already moved, so that's in the past now.
Well,
yeah.
Bet Rivers I was trying to get a bet in for the plus 205. Atlanta's -3 now on Bet Rivers.
They went from no, that's only a half point move.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the Hawks were they went -2.5 to -3.
Right. Sorry, I thought it was plus 2.5. It's still the 2.5 that was there. The -2.5
gotcha.
is no longer there.
So yeah, and it looks like the total is starting to shift. So I'll keep let's go back to unabated odds screen here. You can see these things are starting to move a little bit. Yeah, I think Trey and Bogdan probably just went from something like a 60 to 70% chance to both be in to like 85 to 95%. And we do have value on the Hawks with both of them in. We also, the reason I'm confident that we're going to have value on the over is because the total for this game already dropped 4.5 points or 4.5 points. And it'll probably just go back up to where it was. But because I don't know for sure they're going to be in, I think my recommendation is don't bet the full amount. Like we're showing an edge for Atlanta of 3.3, or I guess it's 2.8 if you get it at -3, because the projection is 5.8.
Yeah.
That's like a 1 unit bet. I think scaling it back a bit because we don't have the certainty that they're in yet is okay. And the market isn't moving so much. Like you can still get -3 if we get them upgraded. The other thing that is happening on screen right now is the total in the Warriors-Cavs game just dropped like a point or two across the market.
I actually just noticed that.
Yeah, so that I don't know if I want to bet the under, but I'm just using it as an indication that there are bettors out there that are not expecting Steph Curry to play. That's what I think is happening.
I was going to say that's the indicator that we're probably going to get.
But it also could be an indicator of Donovan Mitchell because he has the same total effect. So something is about to happen. No, just to clarify this.
Yeah.
I don't know if this current total thing that's happening in the Cleveland game is about Mitchell or it's about Curry. But we're going to get an update somewhere. Yeah, somewhere is going to be an update about someone from this game pretty soon, I think.
One quick thing back to the Hawks game. Bet Rivers has the over at 228, so you get the extra half point if you're betting the over there. So if you do want to get a partial unit in, and you do have access to Bet Rivers, that'd be the place to go just to get a little extra something.
So for me, I did 3/4 of a unit on the Hawks spread for now and a half unit on the total. And that's where I'm holding for now, but I may add if these guys get confirmed they're going to play tonight.
I have a question here, Matt.
Yep.
In the grand scheme of things, my heart is telling me that of all the placeholder bets that I could make, the one that's jumping out to me right now that I feel like should be pretty plus EV. We've talked about this a couple times, but would it make sense to put a partial unit on the Cavs parlayed with the under?
I don't know that the total for this game is going to drop much more. The only way I think the total, because this one too, the opening total for Cleveland Golden State was 228.5. it's already come down. The amount that the Warriors all being out would make it drop, I think. Like,
Okay.
because
Fair
Wiggins
enough.
and Draymond are defense, they're plus defenders. They have an opposite effect on the total to Curry. So if all we had for this game was those three guys being out, I don't think the total is going to move much from here because it's already
Fair
dropped
enough.
so much. The problem with what you're saying is that the total coming down from here is only going to happen if Mitchell is out, and then your spread bet is less good. So I'd rather just wait and just pick the one that is better. If we get
Understood.
Mitchell ruled out, I think betting the under actually can make some sense at 224 or so, because then we'll probably get Curry out. After that, and the total will be even lower. But those are like somewhat negatively correlated with the news. I think that is it's a good place to look in general. Like if we were 50-50 on Trey, like parlaying the Knicks with the under makes sense.
Yeah,
But there's
that's the kind of like if it breaks our way, it's going to break our way in two directions, and you get plus money on parlays generally.
Yeah.
So you only have to win it, say one out of however many times, and if that win percentage is greater than the percentage that we're estimating the player to be in or out, then my brain always wants to kind of go there. And like obviously, we always talk about. You're usually able to bet like 3 sites or something. And,
Right.
The more that we can have prepared, the more that I generally prefer. But that's
Yeah,
just a thought I had.
no, I think it's a good place to look. The issue with this game specifically is we have news on
you
both.
talked me out of this.
We have
for
news
sure.
on both teams that we're waiting on. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've sort of summarized Cleveland, Golden State. We've sort of summarized Atlanta, New York. Let me just go back to the value tab here. So to basically say where we're at again, I think we're looking at like a 3/4 unit bet on the Mavericks. That's kind of what I think is the right bet there. And then with Cleveland, Golden State, I think at this current number, I think we are waiting for some news to drop.
Okay.
So either pro Mitchell or Warriors out, and either of those is going to push us to Cleveland, which does look weird on here because we're showing almost a 3-point edge on Golden State
I
right now.
was going to ask because
Yeah.
if Mitchell's out, that 4 points it just stays there, so it would still be minus that same minus number for value. So maybe explain to those listeners and to those co-hosts who are having trouble grasping this one.
Right, because if Mitchell is ruled out, we have like a 6.5-point edge on the Warriors. But I'm confident enough that Curry is going to be out that
Okay.
I think
Curry and Mitchell are going to wipe each other out as far as the advantage, right? And then you're free rolling the Draymond, the Wiggins, whoever.
Yeah, but if Curry's out, Draymond's going to be out. Like, they just do that. This is just what the team does. I'm 99% sure that if Curry is out, Draymond is also out. I guess where I'm struggling is if I want to bet Golden State when if Mitchell were to get ruled out, should we bet the Warriors and then just bet Cleveland back after? Because there is going to be some arbitrage off of that. The line probably will drop to 6 or less. And I think that's a really hard call, and I think it comes down to how attentive you can be.
What is this line open at?
4.5. It moved when the game went to overtime last night.
Right.
It
so
opened
I'm
it
just trying
opened
to
during the fourth quarter of last night's game, or the beginning of the fourth quarter, and because the game went to overtime, the line started to move. Yeah. Because that as we talked about, increases the chance the Warriors sit their players today. I think if you're very, very attentive and Mitchell gets downgraded first, you can bet the Warriors as long as you make sure you're ready to bet Cleveland when
You're going to bet more on Cleveland after.
Yeah, it'll be way more.
But it might be worth it if it's going to move 2 points. Maybe you take a money line and then just take the Cavs money line the other way
You can do that
afterwards,
too.
and it's going to move enough to where.
The difficult part here is I do think Mitchell is going to be healthy enough to play, but they are playing Milwaukee tomorrow, and Milwaukee is probably the most relevant team in the standings to Cleveland.
They're the same division, right?
They're the same division, and the Cavs are pretty much they're still in the division race. So they're playing the Warriors tonight, but I think they probably know it's not likely to be the starting Warriors.
Right.
And saving Mitchell for tomorrow makes a bit of sense for them.
This is almost like a game of chicken or reverse chicken where
we've had this before. This has happened before this season.
Right.
It was that Grizzlies-Hawks game where the Grizzlies didn't want to say if Morant was going to play or not
they
until
didn't
the
announce
Hawks
it till
told
like
us
9 p.m.
Yeah, they
Right.
waited for the Hawks to decide if they were going to rest Trae Young before they decided on John Morant. I do think there's a chance of that today.
That is the chess game, right?
Yeah. And they should do that. Like, if I was running
Yeah,
the
of
Cavs,
course.
I would do that. I'd be like, all right, Mitchell has a more important game tomorrow. If Steph Curry plays tonight, fine, we'll use Mitchell because we may not win. Like, the Warriors are a good team. But if they're starting Ty Jerome, Jordan Poole, Anthony Lamb, Jonathan Kuminga, and, like, I don't know, they're starting that
Moody.
lineup, save Mitchell for tomorrow. That is what they
Yeah.
should do, but they may not be thinking that way.
Unless he's just fine and he can play both.
Yeah, and that may be true, too. It's not like Mitchell is old.
Yeah, I don't think
he may be
I don't
able to
think
handle
Mitchell
it.
needs rest.
No.
If he needs it, he needs it. But I don't think he
Yeah.
definitely needs it.
He's been hurt lately. The most
Right.
recent Cavs game, he didn't play. So he is questionable not for rest. He's questionable because he's hurt. So it just depends where he's at physically. And I think we will find out about that in the next 2 hours before we get a Warriors update. I just think there's a chance that Cleveland is like, we're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking that the Curry news comes first before we get Mitchell news.
Do you think
But-
so? Just given what we laid out about Cleveland
Yeah,
playing
I
the
think
chess
that
game.
Yeah, I'm glad it was that Morant or the Memphis Atlanta game
Yeah.
where we thought that Memphis wanted to sit Morant, but they weren't going to announce it until they saw the Trae was out. So this just has a similar feeling here where the Cavs would love to get an extra game for Mitchell to be 100% against the Bucks if possible. I think they're going to wait till we get the Curry news.
Yeah, and I think that's so. I'm
Okay,
not
then
sure.
let's
I think it's
let
a
me highlight
good
something.
argument. I'm not sure if I agree, but it's definitely possible.
I mean, this is one of those where there's lots of moving pieces here. Keep an eye on the news if you can.
Yeah.
I want to be careful here also. Because of all that, this could also fall into the category of Mitchell is at shoot around, but then gets ruled out later for all the reasons we discussed.
No, that's fair too. Yeah, maybe we want to back off that a bit. Like him just being present is less likely to mean that he's definitely playing compared to prior days.
I think it's still very likely, or it's still they're willing to play this game. That they'll make the final decision later.
But the good news there is, if Mitchell is at shoot around, and you bet Cleveland, Mitchell won't then get ruled out before the Warriors news, so you'll have time. You'll be able to react to that later.
It works out best this way.
Yeah, because I think what could happen. Let's I think we may agree on the trajectory here.
Okay.
Mitchell is at shoot around. The line starts to move a bit towards Cleveland. Maybe it goes to like 8. Then the Warriors rule out all their players, and the line goes to like 14. And then Mitchell gets downgraded later, and the line drops to like 12. And at that point, hedging the plus 14 will be fine.
Yes.
Here we go. And Mitchell is taking part in post shoot around free throws like normal this morning. I think what this update is, it just came from one of the Cavs beat writers. The media is not let in to shoot around every day. I think the media sometimes is let in at the end of shoot around just to like see the players and maybe just, get an idea of what's going on.
Are you taking Cavs now? Is this enough?
This is exactly what we're talking about. Mitchell is a participant in shoot around. Yeah.
Normally we would say that we would act on it, but given what we're talking about, it's probably not the actionable piece.
If you have nothing
right?
on this
Move the
game,
line,
though,
right?
if you have nothing, I already have Cleveland, so I'm not adding yet. But if you have nothing,
I'm taking a unit here. I think
betting something on Cleveland now makes sense, even at 7.5. Yeah, but I wouldn't go. I might even only go half unit because
all right, half unit. Fine.
Yeah, because this line is not even if we got
Game
Mitchell.
off board. Damn it!
Did that really just happen? Just from because Underdog has not tweeted this yet. That's wild.
My offshore sites are probably a little sharper than your sites.
Yeah, they've got Chris Fedor's Twitter account up. And now other beat writers they're saying he remains. I think you guys are right because Mitchell is at shoot around. He's still listed questionable. That's what we just got from Kelsey Russo, who's another Cavs beat writer, that he's there, but he's not getting upgraded yet. I think they are going to play. I think they are going to
back on the board.
They're going to play this game. The Cavs are going to play this game tonight. They're going to.
The Warriors' money line moved by 25 cents, but the spread stayed the same on my side.
That might be like temporary glitch for a second. I think the Cavs are going to play this game where Mitchell is only playing tonight if Curry plays.
I think I agree.
Yeah. So as far as what to do now, I think if you have nothing yet, you can definitely hold on. They have Karis LeVert still wearing his starter's jersey. Yeah, this is like all just more confirmation that they're gonna have Mitchell play only if Curry plays. So I think I would bet like a half unit on the Cavs now if I had nothing, and then certainly add more if we get Warriors out. That's where I'm at. Because the fair line that we're gonna have if Mitchell is in and all the Warriors are out is like 14. But if it's Mitchell out and all the Warriors out, it's only going to be like 10 or so. And it's not really that great of a bet at this number. Like, it's not. The scenario where Curry sits, Draymond sits, Wiggins sits, and Mitchell sits, it's only like a 1-unit bet. Maybe a little less even. Because the market is already priced in so much here. We actually, someone in YouTube asked that. Like, if I really was saying that the market is pricing Curry as out, the market's not pricing Curry as likely out. The market is pricing a chance of Curry being out and a chance of Draymond. Like, it's shaded a little bit that way. So what I think the market thinks at the moment is Mitchell is closer to probable, Clay is out, and Curry and Draymond, and maybe they're not thinking about Wiggins, but Curry and Draymond are like 75% towards in for now. That's where the market, I think, is at. And that's why we're still going to get line movement when they're ruled out. It's not like all of this is accounted for. It's only a bit accounted for. Because the market doesn't really have like a conscious opinion. It's just, it's reacted partially to this, the speculation that these guys are not going to play. So to go back to unabated here, what are we getting from Mitchell? PointsBet just went to -8. BetOnline went to -8. The totals come up a little bit. I think if we got Mitchell confirmed, it would go to like 8, 8.5 everywhere. But I do think that you guys are right that they're playing the chess game. So I'm on board for that now.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
Things to keep an eye on. Reverse chicken in the works. Keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. Matt will try to make sense of it for us. Let's move on. You want to talk about that Pelicans game now?
Well, let's just recap what we had for Knicks Hawks, and then we'll go there for sure. So with the Knicks and Hawks, for anyone who like jumped in on the middle or just wanted to like hear a summary of this again, Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic are questionable, but they are at shoot around. We got that update like 20 minutes ago. We have a Hawks bet if they're in, and we also kind of like the over if they're in because the total should go up with Mitchell Robinson out. That's part of this. We're more likely to get parts of this game where there are no centers on the court, where like John Collins is opposite Julius Randle.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're more likely to get some of the game where that's going on, but I think the total already dropped 4 points in anticipation of Trae Young and Bogdan maybe not playing. And when we get them confirmed in, the fair total is in the low 230s. So it's not like, I think it's like a half unit over bet and a 1 unit Hawks bet if the information is correct and we get Trae and Bogdan confirmed in. But the market isn't really moving right now, so I think you just, at this point, like, don't bet Hawks -3.5 until you know that Trae is playing. Like, most of the sites have moved from 3 to 3.5. If you got the 3, right, good. But at 3.5, which I think is everywhere, at this point, just wait for confirmation because it doesn't seem to be moving anymore.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've got a 5.8 projection at -3.5. It's pretty decent still. It's like a 3/4 unit bet or something. So yeah, I think that's enough on those two games. I'm checking if we got any other questions, but I think we've got enough on those.
So, I agree.
Okay. New Orleans, Orlando. So we are looking at a decent amount of news here.
Franz Wagner being 3 points is definitely surprising. I know you already mentioned that. I didn't think he had that big of an impact, and it's more of his 2.0 player rating. I'm sure somebody's bad behind him, but
yeah, it's RJ Hampton, Mo Bamba, and I don't know if Caleb Houston would play, but even just those two guys are pretty bad. And Franz Wagner is by far the best player on this team. I know Banchero is like the best prospect on the team, and I don't think he's bad. I actually think he might even be into positive player rating territory, but his consistency is not there yet. Actually, he's still a -1.8. Like, his defense is not there yet. His offense is inconsistent. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year anyway. I think he's going to be a great player in 2 or 3 years. But right now, Franz Wagner is the best player on this team. He's quite good. So if he is out, that moves our projected line to like 6, actually. But Herb Jones and Najee Marshall are both questionable. And we kind of need one of them to play because there is a compounding effect on New Orleans with Zion and Ingram already out. If both of these guys are out, we're in Jackson Hayes territory. And we don't want Jackson Hayes to play.
No, we don't want to be there.
It would still make for a bet. Like if Wagner gets ruled out, I don't think you have to wait for confirmation on Jones. Like Wagner is important enough that I would just bet for sure if just he is out. But if like this 2.1 edge that we have, if Wagner plays, it's going to disappear if Herb Jones and Najee Marshall are out. So this is one where even though we're showing an edge right now, I'm not betting anything till we get one positive indicator in the New Orleans direction. So that's either a Herb Jones upgrade or a Franz Wagner downgrade. We need at least one of those to bet. We don't need both, but we need at least one. And if we do get both, then it's twice as good, but we need at least one to have anything.
Got it. Okay. All right. So hopefully we get Wagner out first. Well, I guess either way, you would right. So Wagner out.
Wagner out. I'm betting. Herb Jones in. I'm also betting. But Wagner out is bigger. That would be a larger initial bet for sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then if it does all break New Orleans' way, meaning Wagner out, Jones and Marshall in, is this more than one unit?
Yeah, definitely. We'd have, if everyone from New Orleans plays and Wagner's out, we have a 5-point edge on this game.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
We're going to be locking and loading.
Yeah, I'm just checking, are there -1s available? I think there probably are. I thought I saw maybe 1.5. Yeah, it's mostly 1.5, so 4.5-point edge, but still, it's north of a unit. Okay, we have one more rest game to talk about today. We still haven't gotten to this one.
Right.
The Nets played last night in Phoenix, and Ben Simmons got thrown out. When was it? Early third quarter? Is that when he got tossed from the game?
Yeah, he played 18 minutes.
Yeah, he started playing.
He wanted to save himself for tonight's game.
Yeah, obviously.
He just wanted to be off the floor. It was pretty clear. He didn't want to play.
Yeah. So Kyrie Irving, though, played 39 minutes last night.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyrie Irving also just missed a game in San Antonio with, what was it, like a heel injury maybe, something like lower body. The Nets are probably feeling a little bit desperate right now. So I think Kyrie is like...
They should be. They're a terrible team without KD.
But they have a 3.0 team rating. They're just not winning. They're underperforming for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they're 1-4 without KD, and at least the parts of the game I watched last night, they look lost.
I do think they are. Well, I do think they are underperforming to what they should be doing without KD. Like Durant is one of the. Yeah.
Dave said in the YouTube chat that DK has a -1 for the Pelicans.
Oh, okay.
If you were still looking for that.
Yeah. -1 at -115. I guess that's slightly better. That is the best.
-115.
That's the best available line by like the tiniest margin.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that is the best line. Okay.
If you don't have anything, would you recommend betting that right now?
The -1? No, I still want to wait. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the best line, but I still want to wait. So the Nets, I think, are underperforming without Durant relative to what they should be doing without Durant. They obviously they're a lot worse without him, but the Nets have an 8.0 or they have like a high 7s team rating with Durant. They have like a mid-2s team rating without him. He's worth like 5 points, maybe a little bit more. And that makes him like a borderline top 5 player in the NBA, which I think is a fair assessment of how good he is. The Nets still should be a slightly above average team without him. Kyrie's really good. Simmons is a well above average player. Royce O'Neal is good. Nick Claxton is like contending for defensive player of the year, kind of. He's pretty good. They don't have a good bench, but that starting lineup without Durant is still good. They're like the Nets without Durant basically have a starting lineup that resembles Portland. Like they're not a terrible team.
I don't know. I'm watching that. Like I said, I don't want to put too much stock into one game, but watching that game last night, I think Durant just has the cascading effect on everything.
Those things tend to not be true over time, though. I think that is happening now, and maybe the team psychologically is like not performing where they should be because of that, but that doesn't persist.
I'm with you. I think there's also, and again, yes, I have an inherent Ben Simmons bias, so I will preface what I'm about to say with this. But without Durant on the floor, who's the leader? Ben Simmons isn't leading anybody. Kyrie's not leading anybody.
I don't know that do teams need leaders. Like, I'm not sure.
I think when you have a player like KD,
yeah,
it's not like KD is doing the get behind me, guys. I got it. He's just going out and doing the things that he does. So I don't know. I'm not a believer in that team without KD on it.
I guess I'm not either, but I don't think you have to be to bet on them tonight. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
we can mark this point in the show for each of our individual reels to
sure.
I told you.
But so I'm not making a strong case for anything, and I don't think you are either. I'm basically just saying, like, I'm just going to go with what our numbers have, and the Nets are way worse without Durant. But are they bad enough to be 7.5-point underdogs to Utah? Like, that's a big number. So
like that is a big number. It is the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
So
hold on. At no point did I think we were going to be talking about betting on the Nets. I thought we were expecting a Kyrie rest game, or at least that's on the table. If Kyrie's in, if Ben Simmons is in, probably I'll take a little Brooklyn. But I think that's trending towards less likely. I get they're desperate.
I think Kyrie's about 60-40 or 70-30 to play tonight.
Okay.
Like, the rest is possible, but given where they are in the standings and given like how much turmoil there's been lately, I think he's a bit more likely to just try. He's not dealing.
Said nobody ever about Kyrie.
But I think
the only thing I would throw out there in Kyrie's defense, so to speak, I did hear a rumor that they've started long-term contract talks.
Okay.
So this could be, where Kyrie's getting on his good behavior for a week and a half, so he gets a long-term contract so that he can then do something weird in 3 weeks. But, this might be the time when, he does things like plays 39 minutes in a game that was a blowout and Simmons got thrown out, plays the second night of a back-to-back. So, whether that helps the team, I don't know. But he's trying to, use recency bias to make people think he's reliable enough to give a 4-year contract to. But anyway,
I think it's become clear that we have no idea if Kyrie's going to play or not, which is totally fine. Which is totally fine because we know how to react to news. So here's what I think we're doing here. I mean, it's like a half unit bet on Brooklyn if he's in. Simmons should be fine tonight. He barely played last night.
I agree.
So if Kyrie is out, we don't really have a Utah bet anymore because the line has already moved. Like, the market is pricing in Kyrie being like 50-50 or something.
Got it.
Yeah. So if he's out, we're going to have like marginal value on Utah. And if he's in, we're going to have marginal value on Brooklyn. And the line is just like right in the middle. So I think the only way we have a Jazz bet from here that is anything significant is if Kyrie and Simmons are both out.
Fair.
Yeah. I do have Simmons listed here. I think Simmons is like 80-20 to play, but he could be out too. It is possible.
Got it. Let's talk about the Clippers game real quick, because it looks like we have. I don't see any names. So
yeah, do we have any 6.5s available? Is my question.
Yeah. Is this a recommended half unit bet right now with 2 points of value?
I don't know that we're. Yeah, there's only one 6.5, and it's at MGM at -115. So it's maybe like it's a pretty fringe bet. It's almost a bet.
7's not a great bet. 6.5 is usually where we start getting in.
Yeah, I think like this is a third of a unit, or you could do half a unit. I'm not super excited about this one. There was a -6.5, -110 across the market yesterday, and then we got an update that George and Kawhi are not on the injury report. So I'm in at 6.5 for a half unit, but even at -110, I still only went for half a unit.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not exciting, but there is a bit of value on this game. Yeah.
Got it. I actually closed my BetMGM account this morning because the largest bets it was letting me place it limited me to one $7 bet and another $11 bet, and I'm like, it's just not worth it anymore. So
on what? On NBA sides?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That account was a holdover from a very successful baseball betting.
I was going to say we haven't had a lot of basketball.
I haven't used that one much this year, and I tried to, and it's just not worth it. So BetMGM, at least for now, is off the table. But anyway, that's the only one that sounded like it was fringe. So we don't need to getting to my limiting issues.
Mavericks are moving back to slight dogs.
Yeah, so there's some quirkiness in the market here. I feel like we should come back to this game. The market definitely, and probably most bettors, think Christian Wood matters a lot more than he does. I think that's what this is.
I definitely think that's what this is.
So we got the Mavericks to be favorites. Now we have the Heat as favorites. I still think this will wind up having the Mavs as favorites again later. Yeah, I mean, you can get Dallas at like plus 105 now. So I'm not necessarily adding, but
if somebody doesn't have a Mavs bet yet,
yeah.
we were recommending money line at plus 100 when the show started. If you don't have anything, jumping in now with Mavs plus 105 on the money line sounds like a good play.
Yeah, it's already up to 1.5 too.
So, yeah, you can take the spread, you can take the money line. Yeah, I think like our numbers are just not going to agree with anybody in this game because we don't think Christian Wood is good, and I don't know why anyone does think Christian Wood is good unless all they look at are counting stats.
Yeah, no, these are the situations.
That's how almost everybody